authorizes but does not appropriate, an important distinction here on Capitol Hill, $10 million over 5 years, $2 million per year. We can authorize, but then we have to appropriate to actually get the funds there. And second, that in my Interior Subcommittee of Appropriations, I was able to secure $4 million, and that $4 million is kind of no strings attached for the support of monarchs and pollinators. And that $4 million is going to be allocated in various ways, and more to say about that. And then a third is that Congressman Padilla, who will be speaking to us later, and I introduced the Monarch Act, and it really is an aggressive vision of authorizing not $1 million or $2 million or $10 million, but $125 million overall to help with conservation of the western monarchs. We're going to need some significant and serious, thank you. All of you who would like to give feedback on the details of that bill, I welcome your feedback. It is structured currently based on the feedback we had before for half of that money, $62.5 million, to be for projects aimed at conserving the western monarch, and the other $62.5 million to implement the Western Monarch Butterfly Conservation Plan that was produced by the Western Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies back in 2019, so a couple years ago, a plan that we hope to continue to build on. So I mentioned that $4 million, and so one specific decision that has been made about that has not been previously publicly announced, I get to announce today, and that is that $1 million will be directly allocated to NFWF, the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation's Monarch, Butterfly, and Pollinator Conservation Fund. And so we will look forward to seeing exactly how that $1 million can be put to best effect, and perhaps to be a template for how we can spend a whole lot bigger pot of money in the future. So thank you to the folks at NFWF and working on this conservation fund, and let's power that up, and this $1 million is a start in that direction. So what will that funding do? It will improve and expand high-quality habitats, both related to milkweed and nectar. It will increase capacity needed to expand conservation efforts into the future. And you can interpret the term capacity quite flexibly. And it will support the implementation of technical assistance to engage private landowners on how they can improve or establish pollinator conservation practices on working lands. So I hope that will be a significant stride in the right direction. I hope that we'll be able to come together a couple years from now and see the plans that were launched coming out of the conversations of this conference to see what have we done on roadsides, and what do we have clubs doing monarch pollinator and monarch support sites with milkweed and pollinators along our roadsides. What did we do on the public lands? What did we do on the private lands? What did we do in our parks? Did we massively increase the habitat? Did we solve the problem of early milkweed and first generation, and so forth? So I'm excited to see what flows from here, because in here, it's conversation about action, and then we need to follow up with action. So, with that, I now have the opportunity to introduce Secretary Haaland for her remarks, and I must say I am so delighted to have her partnership, to have her leadership. She is our first Native American to serve in the presidential cabinet. She is a champion of the planet. Interior Secretary Deb Haaland. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I've been in this auditorium many times. It took me a long time to actually learn my way around here, though, when I was in Congress. It gets a little confusing. But This is a beautiful space, and I'm so happy to see all of you. Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Senator Merkley, and for highlighting that exciting funding announcement, right? Yes, he's going to put that money to good use. Senator Merkley is a champion of monarch conservation, and I'm so pleased that the summit that we talked about a year ago has come to fruition. It's also great to have strong engagement from our friends, Senators Wyden and Padilla. And hello, everyone, and happy Pollinator Week. I'm honored to join you all here on the ancestral homelands of the Anacostan and Piscataway people as we come together to share ideas, learn, celebrate progress, and commit to a better future for our beautiful and important monarch butterflies. Yesterday, you heard from our Assistant Secretary for Fish and Wildlife and Parks, Shannon Estenos. Later today, Fish and Wildlife Service Director Martha Williams will also speak about Interior's work to support monarch butterflies and other pollinators. We have a terrific team at the Department of the Interior, and I'm so grateful and proud to serve alongside them, because every single day they wake up and they say, what can I do for our environment and our conservation efforts and all of those things. I know that there are a number of speakers today, but it underscores how important this issue is to me and our department. I don't have to tell anyone in this room how important the balance of nature is, because you see it every day. You work toward it every single day. It's something that I learned as a child, that every living thing is connected and has a place and a purpose. It's traditional ecological knowledge that was developed and passed down over millennia to my grandparents. My ancestors, our Native Americans and our indigenous people were the first stewards of this land, and I'm grateful to have been passed down some of that knowledge. What my grandfather taught me in his cornfield was that even the worms that we picked off the corn in the summer in the cornfield has a place in nature. The monarch butterfly, through its small body and beautiful wings, plays an important part in this balance as a pollinator, but the steady decline in monarch populations is certainly cause for alarm. When a pollinator is struggling, we have to worry about how food production will be impacted, how the plants that rely on the monarch will struggle, and how much climate change is tipping the balance of nature. And that's why this summit is so important. That's why the $1 million to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation's Monarch Butterfly and Pollinator Conservation Fund that the Senator announced in his remarks is so important. He did incredible work to shepherd that through the Senate, and I can't thank you enough, Senator, for the work that you have done. And that's why we are also announcing today that the Fish and Wildlife Service will establish a new Pollinator Conservation Center. This center will be a hub for science and conservation that can help reverse pollinator population declines and recover the monarch butterfly so that they can thrive and do what they do best. These investments are exciting additions to the work we've already been doing. The innovative and smart staff at Interior use every opportunity possible to conserve and protect nature. And when I say every opportunity, I mean every single opportunity. As I've traveled across the country, I've taken a particular interest in the work we do to reclaim and transform abandoned mine lands. With the help of Interior, communities are doing exciting things like transitioning previously polluted lands into an ATV park, or stormwater management systems, or even a monarch butterfly sanctuary. Yes, we are using the reclamation program to cultivate plants and habitats that attract pollinators on abandoned mine lands in Iowa. This is one of the creative ways that we can bolster our efforts to restore balance to nature and remove toxins from the air that are impacting our pollinators. And thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law, there are more investments coming. The law includes a $1.4 billion investment that will help us collaborate with states, tribes, and local communities to restore habitat and bolster nature-based solutions to tackle the climate crisis. All of this work is what the President's America the Beautiful initiative is all about. It calls on all of us to work together to conserve, connect, and restore 30% of our lands and waters by 2030 for the sake of our economy, our health and well-being, and our wildlife. We won't be able to save the monarch butterfly alone. We'll need collaborative conservation efforts, key partnerships, and the help of everyone in this room to ensure that we move ahead with purpose and a focus on working to restore the balance to all of nature. Thank you so much, all of you, for every single thing that you do. Thank you for being here today, and those of you who came yesterday as well. It's so great to have everyone in one room talking about something that is so important. And now I will turn the floor back to you, Senator Merkley.
Well, thank you so much for that announcement. And having a pollinator conservation center that includes a focus on the western monarch is a big deal. We're starting to get federal funds into the effort. We'll be launching plans that will build on the work already done. And so it's momentum, and we just have to keep going forward. And the Secretary will be able to be with us for a while, and I know you have to leave eventually, but we really, really appreciate your entire team's partnership. You know, I was sitting with you all yesterday when others were speaking, looking at this picture up here, and it's really, I've never seen the monarch in such detail. Thank you for high fidelity photography. And I just kept thinking of what incredibly beautiful creature it is. And it made me start thinking about a place along the Columbia River where there's a confluence of the Sandy River to the Columbia River. And there's a very large delta area there where people think of it as, because it is, a designated dog park of 1,000 acres. And if you have a dog and you live nearby, as I do, you see the joy of your dog going out there and meeting in the course of a morning or afternoon hour, hundreds of other dogs. And it's just like, we don't just have to sniff the billboards along the trail. We get to actually meet all these other animals. There's a lot of joy going on there. But also in that river delta is something a lot of people don't know about, and that is a bird blind. And Maya Lin, who designed the Vietnam War Memorial, also designed a whole series of monuments along the Lewis and Clark Trail. And she took different comments from their journal to design these various monuments. And one of the things that Lewis and Clark recorded when they camped on that delta was that Lewis couldn't sleep because of the cacophony of the birds. The birds were just so loud, just millions of birds gathered there. And so there's a whole restoration effort, hopefully bringing a lot of birds back. And the bird blind is built with a series of slats, and you can see between each one out to the delta, and it's all being replanted. But on those slats is a listing of all the species that Lewis and Clark saw and recorded in their journal along the way. And then it says, in parentheses, after that species, it says if they are endangered or extinct. And you start going through that list of what they observed, and you see extinct, 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 endangered, 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 and you just get kind of this, like, how could that happen in a few human generations that we could lose so much? Well, what we're here working on right now is to take on a significant piece of conservation to save this butterfly, but also policies to save pollinators in general. And Maya Lynn said this in her comments about the bird blind. She says, "I completely believe that the natural world is more beautiful than anything we as people or artists can create. It's really about focusing on biodiversity and the loss of the land that you need to sustain a diverse planet." Well, I think she would be very pleased with the work that we're doing here today. And we have several people who are joining us for this conversation. And Congressman Padilla has arrived, I believe. And did I say Padilla? That's the Senate side. Panetta, are you here? And so a significant welcome to a champion for biodiversity and the Monarch. Welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Senator Merkley. I appreciate that introduction. I'll always take the job raise of being a senator one of these days. No, I'm kidding, but thank you very much, Senator Merkley, for putting on an absolutely amazing event here. And of course, Senator, for all of your work being a champion, not just for monarch butterflies, but obviously our environment. So thank you. And obviously, let me give a shout out to Secretary Haaland, who came in the class of 2018 in the House of Representatives and actually had an absolute meteoric rise to the position that she's in right now. Thank goodness for all of us, especially being the champion that she is when it comes to protecting not just our environment, but also our pollinators. And thanks to all of you for being here and attending this Monarch Summit, Monarch Butterfly Summit. Something that is very, very important, obviously, to the Senator, yes, to the Secretary, and I admit, to me as well. Again, my name is Jimmy Panetta, and I am the representative, the United States representative for the Central Coast of California and the 20th Congressional District. And if you've been there, I think you'll agree with me, Senator may not, but you'll agree with me that it is the most beautiful congressional district in the nation. It's obviously the place that I not only represent, but it's the place that I've always called home. So it definitely has a place in my heart and is very special to me. But it's also special for a number of reasons, especially the fact that it's home to several monarch overwintering sanctuaries, including Santa Cruz, and then of course including what they call Butterfly Town, USA in Pacific Grove. It's a place where I went to as a kid on many field trips in visiting that butterfly sanctuary, that monarch sanctuary, and having the memories of being able to literally feel like you were swimming amongst the monarch butterflies, swimming amongst the butterflies. But I have to say what was truly disappointing is that when my two daughters went recently to this sanctuary, there were just a handful of butterflies that were present. And so obviously, it reminds us, yes, of how special of a place it is, how special and cherished our monarch butterfly should be, but also how fragile this species is as well. So we appreciate, having grown up in that area, you realize and you appreciate how important monarch butterflies are to our communities, to our beauty, to our bounty, our agriculture, but also to our culture and what we stand for as a community, especially there on the Central Coast. But that's also why it is so disturbing to see the depletions and the fluctuations in the numbers of monarch butterflies at these overwintering sites from Mendocino, California, all the way down to Monterrey, Mexico. But with that appreciation and the understanding of that depletion, that's why there needs to be solutions. And that's why, with the help and the leadership of Senator Merkley, we wrote, we authored, we introduced, and yes, we passed the Monarch and Pollinator Highway Act to create a $10 million federal grant program that would restore and revive the habitat of pollinators, including the monarch butterfly. But you know, as well as I do, that's part of the reason why you are here, that clearly more needs to be done. And that's why, with once again, the leadership of Senator Merkley, we authored and we introduced the Monarch Act to provide $60 million for a 5-year conservation plan, something that I believe, and I believe all you believe, that is necessary going forward. But obviously, we're going to need more support. And that's why it's so important that all of you are here today, to provide the science, to provide the sense, so that other people listen to you and realize that we cannot stop now, and more needs to be done to save our monarch butterflies. It's exactly why I stand here humbled to be in front of you and express my appreciation for all of the work that you have done, but all of the work that we need to continue to do to protect this very, very special species, the monarch butterfly. So thank you very much. Have a great event here today, and look forward to continuing our work together. Thank you.
Congressman Panetta, thank you so much for your partnership on both the Monarch bills that we have done so far and all the work we're going to be doing to help drive forward the work that comes out of this summit. And we have a bit of Oregon-California connection here, and of course, in Western Monarch, overwintering in California, then they migrate through successive generations, and what's to the north of California? Oregon, or as we think about it, what's to the south of Oregon? California. Anyway, Senator Wyden from Oregon. Welcome, Senator Wyden.
Thank you, Senator Merkley. You now have 100% of Oregon's United States senators in the House. And of course, our partnership with California is extremely, extremely valuable. And I thought I would just take a minute to kind of put this into context in terms of our country and what people are thinking about right now. And I really want to commend Jeff Merkley, my partner in Oregon, who has been prosecuting this case for a long, long time and has been very devoted to it. And to have Senator Padilla and the legislation is particularly helpful. I always have thought about pollinators, which is really what this issue is all about, writ large, the pollinator, as absolutely key to getting good food to the table of Americans. If you really don't think through all of these issues, you aren't going to get good, healthy food to our people. And right now, what's going on in this country is people are paying $200 for what they used to pay $100, for. And I think that those of us who care deeply in science, which is what Senator Merkley and Senator Padilla and I want to be part of, is encouraging this extraordinary work with respect to bees and monarch butterflies and the like, should be put in a bigger context of protecting the pollinator species. Because when you do it, you'll get more members of Congress to support your cause. You will get more Americans to say, hey, that's really an important thing they're doing. They're encouraging this research, and I don't know everything about monarch butterflies and bees. By the way, I'll be candid to you, I don't pretend to be the biggest authority on monarch butterflies and bees, but I sure have been listening to Jeff Merkley talk about this, and he's making some important points. And what I've tried to do, because we both have a lot of town meetings, is try to say to myself, what is it that people are going to hear when they hear the first words about a particular cause that you're talking about in Washington, D.C.? And if we can put this in the cause of protecting pollinators, and you're doing all this great research, and I'm particularly pleased, Jeff has told me about this, that we're starting to see much more diversity in terms of the scientists that are looking at this, and there's a diversity of scientists that are here today. We'll have a chance to connect with a lot of people right now if we can talk about this in the context of pollinators at large, and something that's really on people's mind. I mean, people are getting beaten up at the gas pump right now because they can't afford, these gas prices. Pretty hard, I think, to relate the monarch butterfly to gas prices, but maybe Senator Merkley is going to tell me that there is such a connection. But what we know for sure is there is a connection between pollinators and putting food on the table of the American people. So I just wanted to come by for a couple of minutes. We've got a bunch of votes, and in the parlance of the Senate, I want to, if Jeff gives me permission, to yield to my colleague from California, Senator Padilla. He's been a great addition. He, too, like Senator Merkley, always raises the knowledge when he's in a room, particularly when he's talking about science and policy that gives us a chance to talk about the future. I think that's what you're all about. I think that's why this research is so important. That's why I so appreciate my colleague, Senator Merkley, leading this cause. And as chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, which is expected to raise the money to pay for things like basic research, I'll be in your corner all the way. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Senator Wyden, and point of personal privilege, also Senate parlance, point of personal privilege. Round of applause for Senator Merkley for bringing us all together. And for those of you, I don't know how many Californians are here. Yeah. All right, thank you, thank you. Any non-Californians that have visited California recently? All right, because we know sort of Los Angeles and Southern California is a very popular destination. And of course, San Francisco, the Greater Bay Area, is a very popular destination. But for the brave, adventurous of you that take either the 101 north of Los Angeles up the coast or south from San Francisco, at some point you hit a beautiful community called Pismo Beach, where you visited last year. And I think you came back from that visit, came up to me on the floor of the Senate and said, Alex, we got to bring California and Oregon and a whole lot of stakeholders together to protect monarch butterflies. And so here we are. This day has arrived, and the work goes up not just one notch, but about 10 notches. I'm proud to co-sponsor the Monarch Act, and I will not get into, I'm not going to try to lecture to experts here on biodiversity and the role that monarch butterflies play in nature. You've been hearing about it. Your expertise is absolutely very impressive. What I thought I would do is try to contribute to the conversation by adding a couple things. One, sort of recognizing that the monarch butterfly is just so symbolic in so many ways, particularly for all the work that I'm doing on the immigration reform front. Some of you may know this, but immigrant rights organizations view the monarch butterfly as such a powerful symbol because it represents the beauty and power of migration. Monarch butterflies don't know state boundaries or international boundaries, right? They go where they need to go to contribute to nature and resilience and sustainability. Very inspiring when you stop and think about it that way. And so, of course, it is our obligation as cohabitants of this planet to do what we can to protect monarch butterflies, because in so doing, we are investing in the resilience of our natural surroundings. Which leads me to what you all know, the challenge of climate change. Right? When rising temperatures threaten the safety of monarch butterflies in the summer, when severe weather impacts milkweed, where they lay eggs, and when deforestation endangers options for hibernation, I can go on and on and on, but clearly you get the point. The climate crisis demands national action, bold national and international action. Again, preaching to the choir if I say we need to follow the science. The science is clear, and we need more of it. That's why we invest in research. And when we're informed by the science, when we're informed by data, you lay out the roadmap of what we need to do for the sake of butterflies, for the sake of other endangered species, including humans. Two of the other things I just want to mention. So how do we do that? Well, it begins by weaning ourselves off of fossil fuels and protecting our natural resources. So I'm proud to contribute to that effort through one of the first bills I introduced called the Public Lands Act, working with one of the future speakers, Congressman Carbajal, Judy Chu in Southern California, and our colleagues in Northern California, including Jared Huffman, to help preserve, better protect 1 million more acres in California that are key to meeting our goals of conserving 30% of our lands and waters by the year 2030. So I'll put my Public Lands Act on your radar for advocacy, and we hope it's part of a package that comes out of committee before the end of the year and is approved by the Senate and the House, and we get that to the President's desk. And I will just leave it at that. I know you have a long agenda and other speakers here ahead this morning and throughout the day, but I just want to thank you for your involvement. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your advocacy. And we're making this an annual. I see a smile. I see a smile. Thank you all for your work. Have a great day.
I really want to note that we've talked about the impact of climate change, but we haven't talked about how we address it. And that's a whole huge conversation about electrify everything with renewable energy. But I really want to thank you for being such a champion to take on the conversion from fossil fuel energy to electrify everything with renewable energy. We have got to quit putting carbon dioxide and fossil methane gas into the air and then take American leadership and work with the rest of the world to do the same. And thank you for being a champion on that. Congressman Carbajal is tied up in another hearing. So that's our set of congressional leaders that are coming by to talk. But you can see we're building the congressional House and Senate lobby for this effort and this partnership. So we have a few minutes. We have 10 more minutes, and then I think we'll break at 11, and then 11:15 reconvene for the sections. But why don't we just take a couple minutes, and is there somebody who would like to share any particular insight or thought they have from yesterday with the group, as we have just a few minutes to take the opportunity. Who would like to share anything in particular? Yes. All right, Stu.
Yeah, this is just what I heard. Your $125 million is finally getting to be at the scale of what we need. You know, we've been working on such a shoestring, ad hoc, a little bit money here, a little bit money there, but to have something of that scale that's transformative. So, thank you.
Stu's referring to the $125 million in the Monarch Act, which has not passed yet. So we're going to need lots of folks lobbying very hard to make that happen, and then we have to appropriate funds. So it's a vision, though, of laying, say, hey, there's the goal. We need a lot more resources. We're going to need resources from the state of California, from the state of Oregon, the state of Washington, for the West Coast. I know that I emphasize the Western Monarch, both because I come from the West, but also because we have lost 99%, and they're more endangered, and everything we learned from the Western Monarch